Okay guys, today's role analysis is with Kai. He's a purple belt out of Trenton under Jordan Teaches Jiu-Jitsu, and I think he's an excellent example of how technical any purple belt should be. Now his game, I think, revolves heavily around underhooks, but so does mine, so it makes for a very interesting matchup. Here he goes very early on. He gets his underhook and he uses his whole body to shuck me forward and make me post on my hand. So what I notice is after I sit to my hips, his arm is overextending. So just by putting a little bit of pressure, like a threat of submission here, he'll have to let go. And that'll make him extract his own arm for me. I always keep my knee in the middle because I find that it's really useful for preventing close guard, triangles, and omoplatas. As he rolls through to take my back, I just spin with him. But because my foot is light, I actually do expose my back. He just didn't end up going for it. I'm not sure why. I cut my knee in the middle again, I fold him to the side, and I get pretty good head position here. So my head underneath his head and chin position right here, as you see, it prevents him from being flexed inwards, and any overextended position is always going to be vulnerable. As I get the pass, he shrimps out, but I maintain my two grips, and I kind of surf with him. And here he ends up giving me the crossface. This will always be problematic. As you can see, I'm still controlling his bottom leg, so it's very hard for him to rebuild a guard. The crossface will always create a twist in his body, so he's not in proper alignment. Here I snap back, and I know that butterfly hook is coming, and immediately I start to dig my elbow in, as you saw there, because I don't want to pass onto a side and have no underhook. As he goes to his back, he looks for an escape because he's always swimming for that underhook. But when the elbow is high on an underhook, you do leave yourself vulnerable to Darce chokes. So as I snap in the Darce choke, I start to threaten a little bit, and he does a nice job defending by going to his back, which I think is probably one of the better defenses. When he goes to his back, it ends up being more of a squeeze on the back of the neck, which obviously I'm not interested in. So I return to side control, and he's trying to shrimp out and bring his legs back in, so I turn my body sideways, and I try to melt into those gaps to prevent the re-guard. With smaller guys, I never try to outspeed them. Typically, they will be faster than me, but here with the deep motorcycle grip, I'm able to knock him over to his butt and start attacking the neck. He does a nice job here defending against my hook and trying to peel out. So I use the Kimura trap here to keep him on his back and establish a top position. Now, whenever that elbow is open in top turtle, I can always punch through for a Darce choke. This is an Edwin Najmi classic setup right here. And what you do is you kind of walk your legs in, and that creates this vacuum for the guy to fall into where he has no arm. But instead I switch my hips, I rebuild, and I resit to guard. Now, here comes one of my all-time favorite sweeps. I chill with the butterfly, and I just wait to trap a posting limb. And if that means his hand goes to the ground, then I just prevent it from widening his base. And as I press into the floor, right into the butterfly. If you like butterfly, I highly recommend you check out Adam Wardzinski. I think he's one of the guys doing it the best right now. I would say he's kind of like the Marcelo of butterfly for our current generation. Here you can see he's got his underhook again, but he ends up taking it out because I put a little bit more shoulder pressure. What you'll notice is that here, when he goes to lift me with his arm becomes overextended. So I bite on that elbow, and I am looking for the reverse arm lock. My head pinches from one side, my shoulder from the other. I take the knee on belly because my plan is to travel further east relative to him. So you can see I'm almost completely losing his entire body, but I'm just staying with a tight bite on his elbow. My objective here is simply to control and slowly apply the arm lock as my head slides away from him. It's very easy and I get that tap. Once the arm is straight, it's very hard to remove the guy's entire body off your arm. This is a setup I actually picked up from watching Nogi Worlds just several years ago, and I've come to really like that reverse arm lock setup. He makes a pretty intelligent strategic choice here where he changes the range, and I use that throw-by pass attempt to get underneath him a little, shift his weight across so he doesn't bucket step me, and you'll see what happens here is the weight goes into his far foot. You see, if you look at his far foot, all the weight is there, which means I can maneuver the close foot. I bring it over, and what I'm looking to do is go for the back. But because he gets low and over the center line of my body, what's going to end up happening is I'm either going to chase the back by coming up to my knees, or I'm going to take a twister hook, but here he dives over. This is a pretty common reaction, so I just wait for him to go, let him build a bit of momentum, and then I surf on top, and I try to keep my head as low and as tight as possible. And I find that kind of head positioning is really important with these smaller guys that can move really well. I use this head and arm position, and I use my leg to compress his elbow to minimize the perimeter so I can wrap up a Darce choke. But he defends well, so I just roll back into a mount. I'm potentially going for a guillotine from the mount, but he just ends up giving me a position where I don't feel that I have great control. As he switches his body positioning to the side, I switch to a technical mount, and I take the gift wrap. Now that I have the gift wrap and I pin the second wrist, I'm kind of in one of my favorite attack positions here where I normally take a triangle. But because he's walking and off bouncing me, I end up chasing the back. And here I'm looking for the Elijah Dorsey Big Breakfast Shoulder Lock. I picked this up watching a Who's Number One. I love this thing. Definitely added this to my game, I think this year. So it's essentially just like an arm bar where the hips push back on the shoulder and you extend the elbow. Here I have a loop choke, and he gets a pass, but you can see I don't have a great loop choke because you can see the base of his neck. So very likely he's going to slip out. I'm kind of waiting for that. As he extracts his upper body, his arm was left behind, so I know that I can threaten an armbar position. There are definitely times where I will finish that armbar. For me, it's more important that I just get my guard back. Now check out this freaking beautiful knee bar setup. Here, he waits and he takes atypical grips with his outside arm hugging my heel, and I feel like that was pretty tight, but I managed to roll out. I clear his foot, and then as I step up, I'm looking to step all the way around into what people might call a pretzel bolo. And I picked this up from watching one of the Rucciolo brothers, actually, and at ADCC, but also at a Who's Number One a long time ago. And all I do is once I cut this 90-degree angle, I'm going to drop my hip to the ground, and there's the momentum. And I raise his hips and I steer him across, and I'm looking for my seatbelt grip, and I'm using my little twister hook there to shift him south. Again, I'm looking for that big breakfast shoulder lock, but he's laughing because there's no way he's going to give it to me twice. As he enters the top position into an over-under, time runs out. I hope you guys enjoyed that roll analysis, and I hope you enjoy the way that I break down jiu-jitsu. If you're interested in seeing more, check out my course on BJJ Fanatics. It covers half guard, butterfly guard, quarter guard, lapel fed quarter guard. These are all great options, I think, that help someone negate anyone with athleticism. I'll drop the link below.